Breaking overnight, students gathering to protest the war in Gaza at Virginia Tech arrested. We're live from Blacksburg with why the school decided it was time to step in.
Free Palestine! Pro-Palestine protests also reached a boiling point at other colleges across the country this weekend.
What we're here to do is speak up for Palestinian liberation. People are dying.
How police and school leaders are reacting to the growing protest.
And later, more than 100 confirmed tornadoes reported in the U.S. since Friday.
You see this right here? This was where a house was.
We're taking a look at the path of destruction left behind.
We're tracking record heat today. Temperatures on the way up to the upper 80s, maybe 90 degrees. I'll time it out coming up.
News coverage you can count on. This is Good Morning Virginia.
We begin this morning with breaking news out of Virginia Tech. Tensions between police and pro-Palestinian protesters reaching a boiling point overnight when the university asked those demonstrators to leave.
ABC 13's Kelsey Childress and Jacob Hunsker are both live from Tech's campus this morning. Kelsey has been there throughout most of the night. Now, Kelsey, it looks a lot different now than it did when you first got there, but what are you seeing?
It does look a lot different, Paige. Take a look. These are the few remaining protesters that are on campus here. But when I first got here at 1:30, this lawn was full of people holding signs, chanting, and they were all looking across that encampment over there. Now take a look at this video of what that encampment looks like. Now it's empty with empty sleeping bags and empty lawn chairs. But before, as you see on your screen, it was full of people, also with signs and chanting, all in support of Palestine. Now, students tell me that they got a text at 4 o'clock today that police would be coming to clear the area, and if they didn't leave, they would be arrested. Students say police got there at 8:30 last night with a speaker and said they were going to arrest people for trespassing. At 9:30, police started arresting students in that encampment. Now, coming up later in the show, I spoke with one Palestinian student about her message to school leaders here at the university. For now, we're live in Blacksburg. Kelsey Childress, ABC 13 News.
Thanks, Kelsey. Now we're checking in with Jacob Hunsker, who's also live from Virginia Tech this morning. Jacob, school officials released a statement explaining why they decided to ask those protesters to leave.
Yeah, Paige, that's right, and good morning to both of you. They've really just wanted the students to clear out at this point. The protests have been mainly peaceful over the last couple of days because they've been going on since Friday. But it was last night that really things started to take a little bit of a turn. If you take a look behind me here, as Kelsey probably just showed you a moment ago, the encampment is completely cleared out at this point. If you turn the camera a little bit to the left end, you can see the police officers are kind of on standby at this point. Everything seems to be peaceful. We're also told there's going to be a truck that's going to be coming in here probably in the next couple of hours or so to clear out most of the debris, most of the items that were left behind in that encampment for students to come back and pick up here over the next couple of days. But again, the university just wants everything to remain peaceful at this point and people to clear out. It was back on Friday that the university says they informed the protesters that the gathering was in violation of the university's policy regarding facilities usage and events. They say things remained peaceful thanks to continued discussions between everyone involved, all of the different parties. But as Sunday progressed, the university says the protesters refused to follow the policies and took up even more space. That's when the university says they, quote, recognized the situation had the increasing potential to become unsafe, end quote. The university says they repeatedly asked protesters to disperse, which protesters ignored. As of 10:15 last night, police approached protesters to ask them to leave within 5 minutes. They told them that those who remained were subject to arrest. That's when things turned sour, and as Kelsey mentioned, that's whenever a lot of the people ended up being arrested. At this point, the university is asking all people, students, staff, and faculty to avoid this area, and those that are still here to clear out and follow the policies, the procedures, and listen to police officers to, again, keep things peaceful and clear out. Whether or not that actually happens, though, that's the big question. We'll have another update in the next 30 minutes or so throughout Good Morning Virginia this morning as things hopefully progress, and we'll see whether or not things completely clear out here and whether or not things are cleaned out as the morning goes on. We're live in Blacksburg this morning. Jacob Hunziker, ABC 13 News.
Well, Virginia Tech has been warning people to stay away from the area. They sent this post on X several times throughout the night. It reads, quote, continued police activity around Graduate Life Center. Urgent. Please leave and avoid the area. Call 911 if you need help. They also issued a statement, which you just heard from Jacob.
And speaking from Germany on Sunday, Governor Glenn Youngkin weighed in on these protests, saying we must protect peaceful gatherings.
Well, first we have to begin with the fact that freedom of expression and peacefully demonstrating is at the heart of our First Amendment, and we must protect it. but that does not go to, in fact, intimidating Jewish students and preventing them from attending class and using annihilation speech to express deeply anti-Semitic views. And therefore,
Youngkin is overseas until May 3rd as part of an international trade trip. He's set to talk to leaders from Finland, Denmark, and Switzerland.
Well, those protests at Tech come as students across the country are staging pro-Palestine protests. Over the weekend, many colleges started to crack down on those demonstrations.
Organizers say they're just promoting peace, but as Christine Frizzell reports, some of that rhetoric has been seen as hostile and threatening to Jewish students.
Well, today marks 1 year since the death of little Kingston Campbell.
The 6-year-old boy was tragically hit by gunfire while playing video games in his room. ABC 13's Jacob Hunsker joined us live in Lynchburg this morning with more on how his family is remembering him.
Patty, Paige, good morning to both of you. 12 months ago today is a day that none of us will be able to forget. Paige, I know for you personally, you were the first reporter that was on scene that day. And for the rest of us reporters here at ABC 13, we were there throughout the day, gathering the details as the tragedy unfolded. As you mentioned, 6-year-old Kingston Campbell was simply playing video games in his bedroom when a group of people opened fire towards his home. We spoke with his mother, Shay Fowler, who reflected on what happened that morning.
And I just remember screaming and screaming and screaming because I already knew that he was dead when I first opened the door to his room because he's scared of the dark, and he wasn't standing downstairs with his sister. He's scared of the dark, so he wouldn't have stood upstairs by himself.
Now, to this point, Lynchburg police have been unable to identify any suspects in this case. Last week, Police Chief Ryan Zudema told us that they believe this wasn't an isolated case, linking it to another shooting death of a minor, Terrion Marshall, from last March. And coming up in about 30 minutes, I'll tell you how city leaders are responding to this 1-year anniversary of this tragedy, and more importantly, what they're doing to prevent something like this from ever happening again here in the Hill City. We're live in Lynchburg this morning. Jacob Hunziker, ABC 13 News.
Well, Lynchburg police released this surveillance footage from the night of the shooting, and in it, you can see several people appear to shoot towards Kingston's home on Floyd Street. Now, a few days later, a gun was recovered from that area and handed over to police. To this day, no one has been arrested in connection to Kingston's death. Police are asking for the community to come forward with any information they may have on the crime. And ABC 13's Mark Spain talked to Kingston's mother ahead of today's anniversary. He also talked to Lynchburg Police Chief Ryan Zudema about where the investigation into Kingston's death stands. You can find that story on our website. Just search Kingston in the search bar.
News coverage you can count on. This is ABC 13 News at 11.
Thanks for joining us after the game. We begin with breaking news out of Lynchburg. Everyone is safe after 2 cars caught on fire tonight on a major highway. Take a look. This was the scene on Route 460 East around 9 o'clock tonight. Lynchburg fire officials say a car broke down on that highway and another car tried to help jumpstart it. Well, at some point, one car caught on fire and it spread to the other car. When crews got there, everyone was safely out of those cars. Crews put the fire out in about 20 minutes and thankfully no one was hurt. 460 East is also reopened to traffic now. And now to a breaking news update. A 30-year-old is dead following a shooting in Wytheville. The Wytheville Police Department says that happened around 2:30 this morning. They responded to the 500 block of West Spiller Street for a shot-fired call. When they got there, they found a man that had been shot in the head. He was pronounced dead on scene, and they say the victim was 30-year-old Chadrick Fink of Wytheville. They found the suspect a short time later. That's on your screen, 19-year-old Cameron Kinder. Kinder is being held in the New River Valley Regional Jail without bond. Now to a milky mess in the Hill City. Crews are working to clean up a creek after a backed up drain left milk in the water. Take a look at this. This is what the creek on Hendrick Street looked like this afternoon. The Lynchburg Fire Department says they got a call this morning that the creek across from Westover Dairy looked white, as you can see in the screen. Crews say a waistline at the dairy was backed up and milk was overflowing into a storm drain and then leaking into the creek. Lynchburg Water Resources is handling the situation, saying in part, quote, "We'll be checking the creek in the coming days to see if there's any environmental impact or impacts to aquatic life." Lynchburg Fire says there is no threat to the public. An investigation is underway in Lynchburg after a car hit a wall at the Boys and Girls Club building. That happened just after 8 o'clock Friday night. Take a look. This is video ABC 13 got on the scene at the 1100 block of Madison Street. Lynchburg police say a patrol officer heard a loud bang and went to check it out. When he got there, he found a car had hit the building. Crews treated the man inside the car for injuries. Thankfully, no one else was hurt, and the Boys and Girls Club was closed at the time of that crash.
Good Wednesday morning, Virginia. Time now is 6:01. I'm Patty Martin.
And I'm Paige Meyer. A wildfire has now burned at least 1,200 acres in Bedford County. At last check, we're told 0% of the fire is contained.
We do have team coverage as crews continue to battle the flames. We're going to start with ABC 13's Jacob Hunsinger, who joins us off Lee Jackson Highway near Big Island this morning. And Jacob, tell us what you're seeing.
Patty, really not a whole lot that we're seeing out here as of right now. And good morning to both of you. We're currently live right outside the Blue Ridge Parkway's entrance here in Bedford County. Visually, the smoke hasn't been too bad this morning. A little bit of haziness in our headlights on the way to this location, but nothing too terrible. And I think a big part of that is, of course, still how dark it is out this morning. The big issue that we've been running into and the big concern has been the air quality. If you've ever stood next to a bonfire, which I'm sure most of our viewers have, that feeling of just constant smoke in your face and the thickness of it in the air, that's really what the issue has been so far in the last hour. Actually, some troubles that I've had breathing over that last hour because of just how thick the smoke is and the smell of that burning ash and fire. And it's been so bad in parts of Bedford County that Big Island Elementary School has actually canceled classes for today. Now, crews tell us that the big reason for that, thankfully, no fires are near schools physically, but officials say the big reason for that cancellation is the air quality, as I mentioned. According to the fire officials, this wildfire has now burned more than 1,200 acres, and it is likely to get even bigger before the crews can put it out. The fire is burning in a remote, steep area, so it's been tough for firefighters to even get to it. Now, there is some good news here. The fire is far enough from any homes and businesses, so there hasn't been any evacuations yet. That's going to be something we continue to monitor throughout the morning, throughout the day, and throughout the rest of the week. But unfortunately, some bad news. The weather conditions are not cooperating with the fire crews. The dry air, the dry ground, and of course that dry brush is a recipe for a potentially long-lasting fire.
You can expect that this fire is going to last for several days, if not longer. And so people in the local communities can expect to see or smell smoke because of this fire.
Now, the U.S. Department of Fire Service tells ABC 13 that they're going to be sending out an update later this morning on the condition of the fire and their efforts to contain it. So definitely stick with us throughout the morning. We'll provide you updates on the condition as soon as we get that information from them later this morning. Live in Bedford County this morning, Jacob Hunsinger, ABC 13 News.
Thanks, Jacob. And as we mentioned, the dry conditions are one of the main reasons why the fire has spread so quickly. Let's head on over to meteorologist Thomas Battle over in the Weather Center. Thomas, we need the rain, but we're not going to see it anytime soon.
No, unfortunately, we're just not. We've got a lot of clouds over, so you might think walking out this morning, like, okay, we've got clouds outside. It's going to rain later. Unfortunately, no. These are mostly just high clouds, and these are drifting in from the south. We're going to look at that in just a second. But you can tell all these clouds covering everybody this morning. That's trying to keep us a little warmer. Let's zoom in a little, and I'm going to show you where that fire is. Northern Bedford County. Again, not to scale, but just to show you kind of where that is. The winds, though, at the surface, even though you see the clouds going towards the east, the winds are going to be carrying most of the smoke northward today. But zooming back out, there's the rain. All of this across the southeast, that's why we have clouds over us. All these are high clouds. They're not going to produce any rain for us yet. We'll see that system swing into the east. We'll look at that again in a few minutes. Temperatures today in the 30s, back to the 50s, and low 60s in the afternoon. Rain chances are slim for Friday, but I'll have more on what you can expect for Friday coming up in just a few minutes.